All right, this is Trey with the Jibe Talking Podcast. We're going to talk to Phil Fry a little bit today about the Thursday night racing and even talk a little bit about our upcoming event this weekend, the Cattail Regatta. So, Phil, why do we do Thursday night racing out here at Jolly Roger Sailing Club? Is there a reason why, or just for the fun of it?
Obviously, we're a sailing club, and it was founded 46 by a bunch of 12 and 14-year-olds that wanted to build and race boats. And we've kind of just kept it going over the years. We had a hiatus for a few years where we didn't race on Thursday nights, but we missed it, so we started doing it again. And this Thursday night racing is different than some of the other clubs who were actually on Lake Erie itself. This is small boat racing. The biggest boats we have are Catalina 22s, and we also have a very active fleet of Interlakes, which are an 18-foot open cockpit boat, and occasionally we'll get a laser or two out here, and it's what we lovingly call beer can racing. It's just a lot of fun. It's not real cutthroat. It's a good way for people to learn how to race, because it can be intimidating a little bit your first couple of races. And it's like I like to tell people is when you race, you become a better sailor, because you're out in conditions you normally would not go out in. If, like cruisers, normally they look at a weather window and they go, oh, the weather is perfect, let's go sailing. Well, racing, it's every Thursday night. So if it's light air one Thursday night, you're going to be out there racing in light air, so you're going to have to learn those skills. If it's heavy air on a Thursday night, you're going to be out there racing in heavy air. The only thing is we don't race in thunderstorms. If we see lightning, we get everybody off the course. And if there's a small craft advisory issued by the weather department, we normally don't race then. But so you'll see conditions out there ranging from 3 knots of wind to 18 knots of wind. So it's very varied, and a lot of these guys have been racing their grandparents now, and they were racing when they were 8 years old out here. So I mean, it's in our DNA. It's in the DNA of the club.
And we're the only club on the river that does any sort of racing, really, right?
Yeah, that's correct. We're the only club on the Ottawa River that does any racing in the Ottawa River itself, and that's where we race primarily. Sometimes we go out into the bay, and we'll be going out into the bay hopefully for the Cattail Regatta. But the Thursday night racing is kind of, for the last 5 years, has been in the river, which also it also has changing conditions in the river, because there are shallow areas that you've got to learn to avoid. We have a tree out there we call the tree of death, because it seems to suck up all the air, and if you get too close to it, you are in light air. So people stay away from that. And then we kind of have to watch the water levels, because they go up and down on the Ottawa River pretty frequently. So we are cognizant of that, and sometimes if the water level, especially late in the season, gets to be too low, we just can't race.
So do you think that racing on the river started before the club was founded, or was it something that happened after the club had started?
Well, it might have been, because we're not the first club on the Ottawa River. Actually, Ottawa River Yacht Club was in place when this club was founded, because a bunch of the parents of the kids who founded this club were actually members at Ottawa River. So they may have had some racing down there. I mean, that's 1946. I wasn't around back then. So they may have had some racing, but certainly since probably the 1980s and beyond, it's primarily been us that's been doing the racing.
And so, like I said earlier, we have the Cattail Regatta this weekend.
Right. That's coming up.
And that is the first regatta of the Jolly Roger Sailing Club, correct, for the year?
And it's one of our premier races. We have 3 major regattas that we do. The Cattail's the first one. Then we do one called the Fall Series, which used to be in the fall, but it's kind of worked its way back into August. And then we have the Buccaneer. And the Buccaneer is primarily for our members who have bigger boats out at Minky's and Anchor Point. That's where that race is. The Fall Series, again, is a Catalina 22 interlake, primarily driven race. But the Cattail is specifically for what we call one design fleet, where all the boats are the same manufacturer, the same size, and race competitively. They don't have a handicap system like the big boats will have. So it's a small boat regatta. We're primarily a small boat club. I know you have a bigger boat, but this club was really started as a small boat club, and we have members that have both big boats and small boats. So the Cattail and the Fall Series are primarily small boat racing.
And then we also have some members that are going to be participating in the coming Nationals. That's correct?
That's correct. The Catalina 22 Nationals this year are going to be up on Lake St. Clair. And we've got, I think, 2 or 3 of our members are going up there to race in that. We are actually the home of Catalina 22 Fleet 57. And so we're going to be represented up there. Commodore Mary Alderman is going to be racing up there. I'm not sure. I don't think Don Carston's going to be racing. I thought there was one other boat that was going to be up there. I don't own a Catalina 22 anymore, or I'd be racing in it, but I don't own a 22 anymore. And what's interesting is our Commodore Mary Alderman is going to be racing in the Mills race, which is Friday night into Saturday, and then Sunday are the preparatory races for the Catalina 22 Nationals that she's gonna be doing. So she's going to be doing some heavy duty racing for probably about a week. So the last time the Nationals were around here, I'm going to guess was maybe 2005, maybe 2006, and it was up at North Cape Yacht Club. And we had several members from the club, from our club at Jolly Roger, who participated in that.
So the Nationals will go pretty much anywhere there's water, or they typically stick to lakes?
Well, they'll be at inland lakes. I mean, Lake Erie to us is, kind of our home area, but a lot of guys who will be coming up, Lake St. Clair will be a huge lake to them. To us, it'll be whatever. But for a lot of these guys who come from inland lakes, this will be a different experience for them. And in fact, we have 2 or 3 out-of-towners who are going to come to our Cattail Regatta, and they're going to leave their boats here for the week between that and the Nationals. They're going to store their boats with us, and then they'll come back and they'll trailer their boats up to Lake St. Clair. Catalina 22 is a trailerable boat. It can be pulled by a vehicle. And so they'll trailer in from, we've got one guy coming from Chicago, and then some others from out of town. I'm not exactly where they're coming from, but they're probably small lake sailors. So the nice thing about the Cattail is we're going to be out in the bay for the Cattail, so they'll get a little bit of a feel for a bigger lake. Because obviously the weather conditions, water conditions, wind, etc., are entirely different here than they would be on an inland lake.
So you talked a little bit about the Mills race. Mary's not going to be taking her 22 on the Mills race, is she?
She's crewing with someone. Okay. She's crewing with an experienced crew for that. However, the Mills race, the smallest boat you can have on the Mills race is a 22-foot boat. The biggest boat, that you can have on the Cattail Regatta is a 22-foot boat.
Wow, okay.
So kind of you couldn't race an interlake on the Mills race because it's an 18-foot boat. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Phil. I appreciate you talking to us about.
One other thing I'd like to talk about with the Catalina race is, or the Cattail race, is the Cattail Regatta is normally a one-day regatta, but this year we expanded it to 2 days just to give the Catalina 22 fleet an extra day of racing. So they're going to be racing on Sunday. The smaller boats, the Sunfish, we're going to have a Sunfish class, we're going to have a laser class, and we're going to have an interlake class. They're going to race on Saturday only. But so we're going to have the Catalina 22s are going to be over 2 days, which is that makes it a little more difficult for us as the host club because we've got to get volunteers for both those days. But the thing that's really neat about this is the Bruce Sondes Memorial Trophy will be awarded at the end of Sunday for the Catalina 22 fleet. And Bruce Sondes was a very dear friend of mine who passed away in 2013, and we created a memorial trophy in his honor, and so we'll be giving that out on Sunday for whoever wins both days of racing. So we'll have a series of racing over those 2 days. Hopefully we'll have 6 to 7 races for those Catalinas, and then whoever's done best over that period will end up with the Bruce Sondes Memorial Trophy.
So 6 to 7 races over the 2 days.
Over the 2 days.
Okay.
Yeah, and for the interlakes, it'll probably be four races, maybe 5, because they're only going to be the 1 day. They're faster boats than the Catalina 22, so they can get around the course faster. And they also have what's called the Founders Cup that will be awarded here to the winner of the interlake fleet. And a lot of times we don't have the Founders Cup. Another club will have it, but we happen to have it this year, and that'll be given out to the best skipper in the interlake fleet.
So why would the Founders Cup go to another club?
Well, there are other clubs that have interlake fleets, so it rotates around.
Okay.
It rotates around. There are other clubs that interlake. The interlake itself, the boat itself, is primarily a Lake Erie boat. But there are some on inland lakes, and I don't know if they're on any other of the Great Lakes, but they're definitely in the Midwest, and there are hundreds of interlakes. I mean, and obviously we're not going to have hundreds of them here, but it will probably be our biggest fleet, and we also give a trophy to the biggest fleet as well. And invariably, that's going to be the interlake fleet because we get a very good turnout with interlake sailors for the Cattail Regatta. They support us really well.
Absolutely. Cool. Anything else you'd like to talk about?
Well, I would like to mention that we did have Thursday night racing tonight, and I had a new person on the race committee, Nicole Coburn. I don't know if you know her or not.
Actually, I do.
Oh, that's right. She's your wife. And she did an outstanding job, so I think she'll be taking over as principal race officer in the future. She's shaking her head no. She does not want to do that. She's already looking up what all the flags mean, though. She's looking up on her phone what all the flags mean.
Don't worry, she'll print out laminated.
Oh,
that'll be ready to go.
That'd be perfect. Can I get a laminated printed out? Well, okay, perfect. I love it.
He loves it. Well, awesome, Phil. Well, thank you so much for talking to us about this, and you have a great night.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Trey.